and to just give you guys a little bit better idea of myself and the practice. But before I get into the slides, really what sets me apart, sets our team apart, is, as cliche as it sounds, it's the planning that we do. Unfortunately, in today's environment, and I know there's an overlap here in many other industries and professions in this room, but I happen to be in a field where I feel like people get bad advice quite often. They get transactional advice quite often. They're sold a product or strategy, and they don't hear from that person again unless they have a very large account balance. Or there's just so many avenues there to take our money, right? So many avenues online, different things like that, but not a lot of planning. And so are we the only ones doing planning? Of course not. But I'd say the majority of people out there aren't. And so the approach we take, which truly is our competitive advantage, is we take a really detailed discovery process to really understand somebody's situation, what's important to them personally, professionally, financially, what have they done, what's available to them, is what they're doing in alignment where they ultimately want to go. And it's a roadmap, right? Jen, before when you guys are building redoing a pool, you don't just go into the backyard with the tools, right? There's some discovery. What's that vision? And you spoke to us last time, and that was one thing that stood out. And it's the same process in a different industry. But you said your passion was to sit down with them and go through and get an idea of what do they want, what do they see, what's important to them, and then we come with a plan to make that happen. And it's a very similar approach that we take, and I'm sure as others in this room take. And so, unfortunately, that is missing from the business, from the industry, excuse me. And so that's the approach we take. So whether it's how do we protect this financial plan for the insurance aspect of the financial planning we do, and then of course how do we grow these assets? How do we grow these assets in the most tax efficient way possible, with the smoothest road possible, so we can maximize efficiency. So efficiency being greatest return, lowest amount of risk, given whatever the goal happens to be. And so, and I'm a certified financial planner, which is a fiduciary in all capacities. And if I'm giving advice even on a life insurance product, I'm held to a fiduciary standard throughout the life of that relationship. That's unique in that, as I've shared with you guys before, in that same example, 90+% of people that are positioning that product in particular, it just needs to be suitable for the client at the time of sale. And that advisor or agent's liability is out the window beyond that point, which is kind of silly, right? And a lot of investment vehicles the same. So, all right. So I talked to you guys a little bit about the travel. So that's who
it was like fun.
handles
it all was like fun.
Yeah, that's who handles the my back office now and client service type things. Also happens to be my wife, as I've shared with you guys. So top right is my favorite selfie of all time. It's at our wedding in 2018, November. Then we went on our honeymoon to Hawaii, and then we kind of did a second sort of honeymoon a few months later in Costa Rica, which are these two pictures. This is in Mexico, and this is our first anniversary in Argentina, which we had such an amazing time in November in Argentina. It's the start of summer there.
Beautiful.
You guys, I highly recommend it. The dollar goes so far now. It's safe, but it's just an amazing place. Especially if you're a carnivore like me. And wine. Yeah. So if you're a Malbec fan or a wine fan, Argentina is the place to be. We brought back as much as our suitcases could fit. But my wife packs a lot of clothes, so that wasn't too much.
Yeah.
So I love this picture. It's simple, but it is reality, right? Even with a plan, so even a plan we put together, there's still bumps in the road, right? There's unexpected things that happen. What are those? I had somebody work with that, almost 50 with kids that were 20 years old, had an unexpected child. That things like that happen. Unfortunately this year, one of my favorite clients, one of my best clients, really large construction company, one of the owners passed away unexpectedly in his 50s already this year. And so these things that we aren't, of course, planning on happening, expecting happen, and they change our life a little bit. I used to use in my 60-second presentation the Waze app example, right? Why do we use Waze? We might know where to go, but I still plug in Waze. Yeah. My mom and dad will still make fun of me if they happen to be in the car and they see me, you know where you're going. Yeah, but I don't know if there's going to be a cop on the way or there's going to be an accident and I need to turn. Yeah. And so I like to think of myself as a Waze for people's financial planning. Is these things are going to happen, we're going to have to pivot. So what's the most efficient way to do that when these things happen? And we try to plan for that stuff as much as we can, and we do. So I'm going to hit high level on just a couple different things, but so let's talk the risk management aspect of financial planning and what I do to help people. So how do we make sure that with our financial goals, whatever they may be, purchasing real estate, redoing my pool, hooking it up with the smart house as much as possible, with the nest and everything else. I'm gonna make sure all of that can happen. I can retire at the age I want to retire. I can do all these things. Well, I need to have a means to fund the plan. So I can't go and buy real estate and create passive income if I don't have any money yet, if I haven't been able to accumulate a dollar yet. So all these different things. So we have to have a means to fund it. So one aspect of planning we do is disability insurance. So if I'm working and I can't do my job, how do I protect my paycheck so that I can still fund the plan? I can still maintain the lifestyle and the goals that I want to achieve. A lot of people say, well, I have that through work. Group plans cover 60% of typically base salary, sometimes includes bonus, and if the employer's paying for it, if somebody actually does have it, that benefit's now taxable to the insured if they were to go on claim, so it's really 60% of their take-home pay that's covered. Most people aren't saving enough to 100% of their take-home pay, so 60% take-home pay usually doesn't do it, and so it's one aspect of planning. Same thing on the life insurance side. Here's the next. This chart kind of shows it's a random disability income situation, but somebody's making, let's say, just over $7,000 a month. They become disabled, $0 a month. That same person probably qualifies for about $5,500 a monthly disability benefit, or about 83% of their take-home pay. Eventually get Social Security too, maybe. But no company's going to insure every cent of that, just because there's no real incentive for somebody to get better. But these things are always eye-opening to most people, and so I always think, myself included, that I'm untouchable as far as I take good care of myself. I exercise, I eat well, drive my wife nuts with all of that. But things happen, and being in this career, we've played claims, and so we know these things happen, and we want to be able to protect against that. So life isn't completely financially destroyed if something were to happen, but 25% of today's 20-year-olds will become disabled before they retire. It's a Social Security Administration statistic. It says in 2015, it's probably worse now, I imagine. So, and then we take the same approach as talking about income replacement disability, about income replacement if you were to pass away. And so, life insurance is also another aspect of protection, and it's not always for the traditional situations where people would think. We place life insurance to pay estate taxes for some people that can self-insure, no problem. If they pass away, their family has plenty of wealth. But if it's all, for example, tied up, if it was all in real estate and somebody of immense wealth passed away, well, they might at death owe 40% taxes on a chunk of that wealth to Uncle Sam. And so how do they pay that tax bill without having to liquidate other assets? And so sometimes we do life insurance that way. Sometimes we do life insurance. I just mentioned my construction owner client that passed away. Well, his business partner now has to make a sizable 7-figure payment to my other client's family, because he has to buy out those shares as part of their operating agreement outlines. So they have insurance in place that's actually gonna fund that. Thank God, otherwise the business would probably go out of business because he would not be able to meet that obligation. All aspects of planning. Talking about the wealth management stuff, I showed you guys this chart before for those that were in the room, but I'll just make it simple for you. On the right side, those are the larger numbers. It's what the overall market, let's say, performed over this 30-year period of time. The smaller buckets on the left side are what the average investor received. How much the average investor in that particular fund, say like the S&P 500 did 10% over that 30-year period of time, the average equity fund investor did under 4. Why? We're emotional. People are emotional, so they need help. Meaning, and some of you may have done some of this, but in 2008, as an example, market S&P 500 down 37%. And what do most people do? So they pull the money out. Go to zero, right? That's always the thing. It's just all these companies are not going to exist anymore at the end of the year, which of course is not the case. So they get out, they get emotional, and then when are they ready to get back in? If they do, after they've seen that the market goes back up, they feel better about it now. So they owned it here.
Buy high, sell low.
Exactly. It makes all the sense in the world. They owned it here. You own anything, right? Say if you own a house, in your house, and then the next year you get your property appraisal statement for tax purposes, whatever, and you see it went down. If you plan on being in that house for the next 20 years, or whatever, you don't say, "Oh, crap, I got to sell my house now. It went down." No, of course not. Then again, if I did come to you and I said, "Hey, I'll pay you $50,000 more, $100,000, whatever, $200,000 more than you saying your house is worth," and then you might consider doing it, because hey, they're gonna pay me a premium for it. That's how we value really any commodity. If it's a good deal for us, we buy. If it's not, we don't. Or maybe we sell it if we don't. If it's expensive. People are emotional, and they, for whatever reason, treat their investments the complete opposite of that. And so those are some of the reasons I always compare what I do oftentimes to a personal trainer, right? You may know how to work out, but you're going to do more reps if somebody's standing over you saying, "You got 2 more in you." Of course, if you're by yourself, you're going to say, "Oh, that's enough." I can speak for myself and say that's the case. I'm famous for doing that. With myself, I'm famous to myself for doing that. If I have somebody with me, it's like I'll go twice as hard. So just a point on just really that people need help. Also, again, inefficiencies, right? I talked about creating maximum return, minimum amount of risk. These are just some of the daily inefficiencies I run into all the time. Where are people growing money? So these might be retirement dollars, but people are growing them all in what we call a non-qualified investment account, a non-retirement investment account, where they're going to be subject to capital gains taxes, ordinary income taxes, instead of being able to continue to grow their wealth without taxes like any retirement account would. Or maybe they they're using things that, again, I'm thinking about you right now, saying keep it simple. So there's instruments that even in those types of accounts that aren't retirement accounts, people can grow money without tax, or minimal tax, or that pay tax-free interest, etc. And so just some of the mistakes people make, and this just shows, similar to the other concept of people pulling out money, but when you take compounding into effect, people growing their money over time. If I'm giving a little bit to inflation and a little bit to taxes, a little bit away in taxes, it has a dramatic impact to stocks over this 1926 to 2017 period of time did 10%. After inflation, that's 7.1%. After inflation and paying taxes on the money is 5.1%. So on and so forth. The lost one is holding money in cash. And so, but should people hold money in cash? Of course we should, for certain things, right? Short-term goals. So how do I figure out how much for what? Where do I need money? And so again, that goes into the planning process. Grandma's quilt, periodic table, those are different things people use to describe this. What this actually is every year, what every asset class did. What's an asset class? Pretty much anything you can invest in. Any possible thing you can invest in is going to be made up on one of these asset classes. It's going to fall under one of these categories. Like, you got cash, you got fixed income, it's going to be like your bonds. You got commodities, it's going to be like your oil, sugar, gold, U.S. large cap stocks. It's your Home Depots of the world, your IBMs of the world, Facebooks of the world, so on and so forth. And so you see things like international emerging markets, 2017, best performing asset class, best performing in years leading up to it, the red one. 2008, down 53%. How do most people pick? Then you have a 401k at work or anything like that. They send you a list, show you all the funds there. They show you the 3 month, the 1 year, the 3 year, the 5 year, the 10-year return. People don't really get help in those plans. Where most people who aren't getting help put their money, whatever fund looks like it did the best, right? Mm-hmm. So people end up not in anything that's really allocated how they should be, but picking off of return. And so we take a more systematic approach to make sure we can relative risk. It's going to be volatility over that period of time. This is what that compound average return. And say, how can we kind of create a portfolio that is mathematically efficient? And so we actually can measure that stuff. Make sure there's not overlap. They might have one fund here, another fund here, and they think, oh, it's different funds. I'm diversified. Each fund might have 500 companies in it, but those funds essentially have the same strategy, and it's pretty much the same fund. And that happens all the time. People have multiple accounts. Sometimes even clients of immense wealth that we meet, and what holdings they have in each account are just there's such efficiencies that they could create if they just maybe instead of holding the bonds that they're paying ordinary income tax on the interest on, that's to be held in an environment that's growing without tax. We can hold those holdings in these accounts, and for the equities like the stocks, or hey, we're only going to recognize taxes when we sell them or make a change, which isn't going to be every year to begin with. And when we do pay it, even if we're in the highest tax bracket, we'll pay 20% long-term capital gains instead of ordinary income tax, and instead of every single year. Or we'll hold those in the taxable account. Little things like that, where we could probably making it too complicated, but just we can really make we can create rate of return just by rearranging the exact same holdings somebody already has. And little things that I don't know how, but even sophisticated and wirehouses, investment firms, I honestly think it's just laziness, and we're not perfect, but these are little strategies that you're just always overlooked. And I'll come back to it, but this just goes into we'll come back to it and go into ways you guys can introduce me, but sometimes it just starts with a conversation, and that's all I look to do with folks when I am in front of them, and just try to understand their situation a little bit, and areas that I may be able to help. Sometimes it starts just through a conversation a little bit with an idea here or there, and then hopefully eventually can look under the hood a little bit and develop a plan. But even people that are working with advisors, all the time, I'd say most of the people that we bring on as clients have an existing advisor when we meet them, or have done some planning with an existing advisor when we meet them. And we certainly don't want to step on toes of people that have everything in place and are doing it the right way, and somebody's doing their job, and that does happen sometimes. But more often than not, there's some red flags, or at least one area of their planning where there's a void. Because life changes so much, and we don't always change quick enough with it. Same exact portfolio, two different people, same exact amount of money, same exact investment strategy, invest in the exact same things. They need 10 grand a month to live off of in retirement. The blue line takes that 10 grand a month out every single month, no matter what. The yellow line, in the 2 years the market was negative over that 20-year period of time, they don't take money out, or they take out less. So they avoid having to pull money out in a downturn. And they have double the account value. So they both start at 1.5 million. One ends up with 2.8, even after taking all that money out. The other one with 1.5. I know you guys can't read this, but you see the first year was negative 2%. So this one took out 123. It's 120, 10 grand a month plus inflation. 123 in year 2. This one, they didn't take anything out. They avoided having to pull money out of their account, times where the market was down. And then the second to last year, instead of pulling out 204, they pulled out 137. So they took out just under $200,000 less over this 20-year period of time. They could be strategic. Because of that, they had double the account balance. Again, working with an advisor, people oftentimes think maybe some of you guys have done this, that would be to be expected, but, oh, I need to get to $3 million, whatever the number is, come retirement, make up the number. And I already know when somebody says that to me, why they're doing it. What does that mean?
20 minutes.
What was my warning?
Sorry. This is the warning.
Didn't tell you to do
You
the
were
job,
so
gotta give you a
passionate,
10-minute warning. I'll wrap it up. So, but I already know what kind of process they've done when they're going to do something like that. They've already said, well, I'm gonna get, they assume I'm gonna get 5% on my money, or 4% on my money, 3%, insert whatever assumed rate of return they think. And that means I cannot touch my principal, and if I say I need $2 million and I think I could get 5%, well, that's $100,000 a year I can live off of. And that's a normal way of thinking, but they aren't thinking about taxes, they aren't thinking about inflation, and like use today's environment. 5% is always guaranteed, right? Things change in every asset class. And so if that would be this one, I'm gonna pull out money no matter what. This one say, okay, I can avoid pulling out money in those down years. Well, this one has a heck of a lot more money. So people do need help. They do need to figure out what the best withdrawal strategy is. So we have 25% to a third of our client base that's at or in distribution mode, retirement, as some would say, and then the rest that are in accumulation mode. There's really nobody that we can't be of service to. How I like to get introduced, guys, is for you for people that kind of fit that mold of the people I'm always telling you guys are ideal for me to meet, which my kind of bread and butter, who I feel I can be the most service to, or it's easiest for me to help them, is the small business owner. Ideally, at least a couple years into their business, because if any of you have opened a business before, I know Bill, you're always saying how throughout your life you open so many different businesses, but where does the money go the first couple of years in a new business? Right back in the business, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not always, I still want to meet those people, but it's not always the best time. So who do you know that's doing well in a small business? People that just outliers that are not going to cover off the ball, or just all around good people that you guys care about or look up to, or you think would just be a good person for me to meet. I just call that person. I say, hey, Betsy, Aaron spoke highly of you. Take him off the hook. You didn't say you wanted or needed anything that I do. This is what I do. I would love to connect with you and give you an idea of how I help people out. Have an idea of our value proposition, and then that's all I try to do is have an intro conversation to just connect with them. It's too hard for me to ask you guys ever who's in the market for what I do. Unless somebody just inherited money or something like that. People, off my experience, is they don't just walk around saying, man, I need to find a financial advisor today. Or I need to, it just doesn't typically happen that way. But those intros where people might think this person doesn't need anything at all, or they're all set. The person you think is all set is probably the person I want to meet, and probably far from all set. So yeah, really anybody that kind of you guys think fits that mold is great, and I just call to make an introduction to them, and if they want to take a meeting, great. If not, no harm done. But I'll tell you, probably 80% of the people will agree for an intro. Long-term thinking and planning enhances short-term decision making. Make sure you have a plan of your life in your hand. That includes the financial plan and your mission. That's a famous financial book out there, but long-term thinking enhances improves short-term decision making is really kind of the nutshell version of that. And oftentimes we think very short-term with consumer purchases, right? A car, or this or that or the other thing. Starbucks coffee twice a day for $10, $300 a month, or $5,000 of gross income on an annual basis. How many things in our life can we do that with, right? Amazon purchases. So, thanks guys. I know I gave you guys the time. Sorry for talking so much, but yeah, thank you. And here to help any way we can.